Nassau Street Partners is a relatively new investment bank here on Wall Street. With me is Juan Moreno, a managing partner at the bank. And just lay the groundwork. What is Nassau Street Partners doing?
Well, Nassau Street Partners is a relatively new boutique investment bank. We focus primarily on capital raising and mergers and acquisitions for our clients. We're one of the fastest growing firms here on Wall Street. We're just over 50 employees now. And I think that, what we've done is we've brought very experienced senior leaders in the investment banking, family office, and venture space. We've brought them on to lead our investment bank. And we combined that with a lot of new technology, a lot of new energy, and ultimately it's a new approach to raising capital, to mergers and acquisitions that's proven successful so far.
And you're focusing on a particular sector, or a particular type of company. Explain that.
The clients that we work with are innovative. We want to work with founders that are disruptive on the capital raise front. Ultimately, what matters to us is that we can present a growth story that is attractive, that is compelling, because it is our duty not only to represent our clients, but it's also to represent the investors and make sure that the clients and the deals we're putting in front of them are quality and that fit their mandate. So I think that above everything, we're looking for founders that have a compelling story, that have a compelling growth story, and that frankly are able to thrive in the current market environment.
What kind of growth are you seeing in private markets?
I think there's huge amounts of growth. More and more companies are delaying going public. For a lot of companies, it doesn't even make sense anymore to go public. I mean, we're here on the stock exchange. More and more companies are deciding it's not worth it. And I think that as valuations in the private markets grow and grow and grow, it's becoming more of a playing field. And I think in the private markets as well, you're seeing a shift where there's new entrants to the space. You've got family offices coming in where traditionally they might have been LPs of a large venture fund. They're coming in and they're leading rounds, or they're leading syndications that they're putting together. So there's a very big shift, and frankly, there's a very big amount of appetite for U.S. growth equity, U.S. startup capital right now, specifically from overseas investors, Europe, Asia. They're seeing the growth story in the U.S., they're seeing the metrics, and they want to get involved.
And what kind of trends are you seeing right now?
Well, obviously there's the one everybody knows about. There's AI, there's tech. But I think when I look at valuations, when I look at market dynamics from post-COVID, valuations have, on the whole, barring a few exceptions, come down. And they've come down to more reasonable levels where a lot of investors that had that dry powder during 21, 22, 23 are now choosing to deploy if the story makes sense, if there's real tangible cash flow, or at least a determined path to cash flow, to strong revenue with good metrics. They're now coming in to deploy at this time because those valuations have come down to far more reasonable levels.
Yeah. And what investor types do you see having the dry powder to get involved in these kinds of deals right now?
Without a doubt, I think it's family offices and large strategics. As I had mentioned before, they had been on the sidelines for a while, and I think their appetite now, as the economy is picking back up, as the U.S. market is strong, they're looking to come and deploy, particularly into U.S. issuers, and take positions in very promising companies.
Yeah. Now, valuations have come down, at least in some areas,
Yeah.
Since 2021. Where do you see that headed?
I think that they're at a reasonable level now. I think it's probably headed upwards for most segments. And I think investors recognize that. So I think that now is a time where we're getting a lot of interest in certain segments. And right now is the time, I think, that if you have a good narrative and if you're approaching the right investors and you have at least a path towards revenue and later profitability, you have a very, very good chance right now because of the valuations levels.
Yeah. And what are some mistakes that you see founders make when they're trying to raise capital, maybe have an IPO?
Well, look, I mean, I think that, you can run a successful company or you can raise capital, but if you're going to try to do both, it's very, very tough. And I think that a lot of founders will try to do both, and it's overwhelming. And so I think that just when it matters most, just when the financials, just when your growth metrics are under scrutiny, when you're raising a round is when you as the founder, you want to be all in on the company. You don't want to have your attention split 10 different ways because you're having to raise the capital. So that's what we see a lot. And frankly, I think that's where the big market opportunity has been for us, is coming in and supporting founders and partnering with them, and helping to take that burden off their shoulders and letting them do what they do best, which is running their business, and letting us do what we do best, which is raising the capital.
Yeah. And what about family offices and the interest that they've taken in the private markets? Why do you think they have done that so much lately?
Look, I think it's a trend that's going to continue. Family offices have transitioned massively in the last 10, 15 years. Even in the last 5 years post-COVID, they've gone from being passive LPs to active GPs, leading rounds and being very, very notable investors. That's only going to continue. And we find family offices to be an excellent fit for our clients because they think long-term, they think in terms of decades, and frankly, they're looking for more synergies than just introductions to portfolio companies. They're looking for strategic introductions to industry leaders, government officials. They can pull those kind of levers, and ultimately they can accelerate the timeline of our client's company way faster than maybe traditional venture might.
Okay, Juan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay.